Presentation series. Before I introduce our today's speaker, I would like to remind you that this presentation will be recorded and available through video library, where you can find our previous presentations as well. With more than 1.3 million mobile units shipped to business in 39 countries, QES Group provides integrated wireless systems and services to transportation and logistics companies around the world. Today we have Tom Flees, Senior Director of Product Management, here to tell us about QES's current projects, services, and also do a demo at the end. So Tom? Thank you.
Helps to turn on the remote. There we go. So it was the summer of 1988, and I just finished a year at college at USD here in San Diego, and I went back home to Minnesota, where each summer I worked for a startup company that was making onboard technology that was used on semi-trucks, similar to what QES does, but a different segment of the market. And that day I happened to be driving down to Des Moines to work on some trucks, and if you've ever taken the drive from Minneapolis to Des Moines, it's a pretty straight shot. And as you leave Minneapolis, but all you see is a bunch of green fields that time of year, and you see flat terrain, and you see straight road. And if you're in trucking, like I was at the time, the thing you look for on the road are the trucks, right? You look to see the name of the company, what type they are. And I remember coming up on the back of this semi that was bobtailing. It had no trailer attached. And I remember I saw this white thing off in the distance, and as I got closer and closer and closer, I saw it for the first time, the Qualcomm Dome. Now we have a lot of TLAs for it back at the office, but everybody in the field refers to it as the Qualcomm Dome, and it's ubiquitous in the trucking market. As you look, when you're traveling, look on the back of these big semi-trucks, most likely you're going to see that unit on the back. So, my thought back then was, well, who would be crazy enough to try to put a satellite unit on a truck, and who would be brilliant enough to pull it off? And of course, it was Qualcomm here in San Diego. And you may think of QES, like a lot of people do, the image of that dome, and then providing satellite communications from the truck through the satellite back to the office so that drivers can have two-way messaging, that companies can find and position their trucks, and they can run their operations more efficiently. Today, we do all that, but QES is much different than it was 20 years ago. Our focus now is on adding software applications, on adding more than one platform, many forms of communication, and we're going to have a demo of our latest MCP200 series later. But before I jump into that, let's just take a look at some of the numbers. And Brian read these off at the beginning, but QES was the first Qualcomm division. In 1988, it was the first product shipped from Qualcomm. That's 1.4 million devices now worldwide, and it's operating around the globe for 10,000 customers in 39 countries. It was a little faster on the laptop, in 4 continents. So that's 12.5 million transactions a day that run through here at Qualcomm, and it's actually the largest mobile data network in the world. And if you think about the OmniTrack system, today there's a lot of talk about M2M. It was really the original M2M system, so a lot of history there. My history here at Qualcomm, I've been here for almost 4 months now, 118 days, but I've been in the industry for nearly 20 years. And after college here in San Diego, I went back to Minneapolis and worked for that startup who made onboard technology and just recently joined Qualcomm. So we have an expert, Jason Riggs, here who's going to do the demo later, who can show us all the advanced things we're doing with the MCP200. So today, really 3 things we want to talk about. First is the industry that we serve is really complex. It's been hit hard by the economy. There's a lot of challenges coming at it from a regulatory perspective, and at QES we help meet those challenges. Also, our technology, it's really evolved over the years, and it's really changing rapidly now to meet the needs of the industry and just the pace at which technology is changing for everyone. And then third, by looking at those problems, adding technology in, We're solving some real problems for our customers, managing their costs better, ensuring compliance with government regulations, and sometimes when it comes to safety, it truly is a matter of life and death that we're able to affect on the road. So first of all, the industry. So I looked for a slide and a way to show you what it's been like to be an operator of a trucking company over the last couple of years, and this was the best graphic we found. All the charts look like this. Things look great in 2008. Everybody's having fun. They got their arms up in the air. The economy's going strong. And then in a matter of 6 months, you had a 25% drop in the supply and demand for truck tonnage. So basically, if you look at how that played out over time, truck tonnage is basically, trucks move 70% of everything that we buy and that we use. So if you look at the line here on truck tonnage, it pretty much mirrors where the economy's been. So like I said, in 2008, 2009, you see that big drop where we fell off that cliff. And then we see things coming back, a projection that by 2020, things are going to come back and the market's going to be strong again. The main reason why is from 1970 to about 2008, 2009, the U.S. population went from 200 million people all the way up to 300 million people. So it took almost 40 years to accomplish that. If you look at the next 10 years, we're looking at possibly as many as 50 million people being added in a very, very short time to the U.S. population. That means more stuff, right? We have to haul more things. We have more cell phones. It's going to be good for everyone. But there's going to be a lot of challenges for this industry, especially when you think of the congestion on the roads and some of the problems that's going to bring. So staying with the trend of looking at some of the industry problems, talking about labor, drivers are really hard to find and retain in the industry. So there's a labor shortage, or there has been over time. In 2006, driver turnover was as high as 130%. So if you think about your team, your department, if you think about that turning over in a year's time, 1.5 times, it's pretty tough to get things done. If you look at where the industry is now, we're down at about 50% turnover. So again, the supply and demand has kind of reached an equilibrium, and it's not as bad, but it's still an issue for these companies. Every time you recruit, hire, and train a driver, it costs between $5,000 and $10,000. So it gets very expensive. The other thing that's happening is more government regulation is coming, and it's forcing change for the industry. So I talked about the drivers being hard to find. Actually, there's a new safety initiative coming out, CSA 2010, which will roll out later this year, which is a completely new scoring system rating safety for every carrier that's in the U.S. with a DOT number on the side of their truck. That system has 7 different things that the FMCSA, the governing body of motor carriers, looks at, and those things really relate back to the driver. His working time, they relate back to accidents, speeding violations, anything that happens with that driver is going to affect the safety rating in the company. So what that's going to do is the bad drivers that used to switch companies all the time, one reason for all that turnover in companies, they're not going to be able to do that anymore, and the driver population is going to become much safer. There's going to be fewer drivers, which means wages are going to increase. And when you're a trucking company, it's going to get more expensive, and also the things we buy get more expensive. So when you see this regulation coming from Washington affecting transportation, transportation is in just about everything we buy, you see costs going up overall. Other things, the driver's working time. So each driver has to carry a logbook, which is basically an electronic time card or a time card that records what they do 24 hours a day, every day of their life. So our technology actually will record that information for the driver and do it automatically and do it electronically. The government is looking at mandating that technology for up to 10% or more of all motor carriers in the country. And people expect that in the future to become even stricter. So again, regulation is coming to force the amount of hours the driver can work by measuring electronically, the labor pool. And then finally, getting to the equipment, the EPA also has new regulations on emissions for diesel engines. There was a big curve in 2007, and that's gone up again in 2010. So amazingly, the technology that's on these diesel engines in many U.S. cities, the air going out of the stack is actually going to be cleaner than the air that went in that engine. So the industry has come a long, long way in improving engine emissions, but that also means more technology. It means, in many cases, less efficiency, which means less cost again. So the industry is facing a lot of regulation, and that regulation is forcing change in the adoption of technology like QES provides. Speaking of technology, like we do here at Qualcomm, there's more and more of it in everyday life. So we see a lot of people trying to get into the industry, into the space that QES is in, because they look and say, hey, look at this change that's coming. There's regulations, technology can help, and you see a lot of companies looking to come into the segment, but you're also seeing an investment as well come in, but you're also seeing people look at substitutes like using cell phones and different things. The other aspect of this is companies are expecting more and more out of technology. The drivers, the people that use the systems in the office, and so the systems have to be better, and the bar is really raised for everyone who's providing technology, and the change has to be more rapid. Technology is changing fast, so as a provider of technology for the industry, we got to turn it quicker and better and faster. So the second thing, our technology is always evolving. We're Qualcomm, right? Quality communication, so of course we have wireless covered. We still provide satellite communication, and that's a strength for us in the industry. But we've also added cellular as a standard and Wi-Fi as well. A lot of the systems are going out with multiple modes of communication. And we're using those different modes to deliver richer content to the drivers. So back when I talked about 1988 and the way the system worked, it was pretty much like text messaging back and forth to the cab. You're just sending characters back and forth. You're counting characters. You're billing characters for customers. Today, we're talking in terms of megabytes, and we're talking about sending videos. And we're talking that videos that connect the driver back to the company. We're talking about sending videos that help them with their remedial training and things like that, as well as other content through the service. We also offer things like premium Wi-Fi service, which over 700 locations in the country, drivers can go and connect, download, and even browse the web, which is something completely new for many drivers in this industry. Also, from a portfolio standpoint, we really have a number of different offerings that kind of match fleet sizes and solve things based on the fleet need. Another change is we're actually tracking trailers. We're actually on the second generation of our trailer tracking product. This is the new TT210, which will be released in the first quarter calendar of next year. And it's difficult to see, but you have a solar panel here that's providing power. Inside you have the radio, the GPS, and the battery. And this just mounts onto the front of a trailer. And using solar power, you can track your truck, you can find status of the trailer, and combined with the information on the driver and the vehicle, you have a complete view of all your assets in the fleet. The mobile computing platforms, we have the 100 is going to be replaced by the 110, and then we have the 200 as well, which is a new platform which was developed and released. Jason, the release was last September. And since that time, it's just done very, very well as far as meeting and exceeding all the expectations we have for it. So it was timed right with the economy starting to come back. The companies that managed well through that period, through the recession, came back and they're looking to gain an edge with technology. And we see more and more fleets are going to the MCP 200. And here to demo it, we have Jason Riggs, who's our Senior Product Manager on the MCP 200. Jason?
Thanks, Tom. So, one of the things that we tried to address with this platform was creating a powerful mobile operations center for drivers. Because, driving trucks these days is about so much more than just driving a truck. There's paperwork, there's things that need to be scanned, there's hours of service that have to be tracked. So, as we go through and look at some of these applications, just keep in mind what we're trying to do is really provide a consolidated area where drivers can manage all of this stuff and where the back office can then communicate with those drivers and understand what's going on in the cab. So, one of our marquee applications is the messaging. I mean, that's what the vision was really built on, was the ability to message and track drivers where they are. We offer basic text messaging, and you can also have the messages read to you as a
Received
driver.
September 16th at 1:33
So that gives you
p.m.
some ability to, again, continue to do what you need to do without necessarily having to look down and read the device. So, very early on, we've been working with these text-to-speech types of initiatives to give the drivers a safe and easy messaging experience. Some of the other things that we offer, hours of service. Again, as Tom alluded to, there's some regulatory regulations coming down the pike, and those are going to drive more and more importance behind things like hours of service. So we've got a lot of companies that are interested in this. Having your logs managed electronically, it reduces a lot of the headache of having paper logs, and it's becoming an industry standard going forward, having these things tracked. So, we offer an hours of service application that gives you visibility not only as a carrier but also as a driver into how many hours you have left before your hours of service are up. So these things are tracked very closely so that drivers aren't driving fatigued. And again, it's an effort to make the roadways safer, and we enable that through applications such as that.
Messaging.
We also partner with a company called Map2It. They offer a product called Navigo. So we've got navigation on the device. You get turn-by-turn directions that are spoken to the driver. There's all kinds of different options for how you get different views on this. And again, we've got a safety mode here as well. We're always keeping that in mind, especially with all the driver distraction discussion that you hear lately. So when the vehicle's in motion, you can do things like request a reroute, but you can't sit there and type in an address. Very similar to maybe a personal navigation device. If you've ever had one of those and you've been on the road, you know that you can't interact with it a whole bunch. But at the same time, we don't want to limit productivity by making them pull over if they get lost and need to reroute. So this has been a very highly adopted application for us. A lot of our big customers use it. Even customers that think they know, their drivers know where to go, how to get to the route. It may be a dedicated route, but now what you can do is track the route you gave the driver, the route they actually took, and you can give them additional information such as fuel stops along the way where you want those drivers to go. So that's helped to drive a lot of efficiency as well. As you saw with Tom, we've got trailer tracking capability now here through our trailer management application. We've got a driver login functionality that enables a driver to log in and then have that driver's information tied to a bunch of different services like navigation and hours of service. We've also added scanning. So we give the driver the ability to scan in a document, and that document is then captured on the device and sent over the air. And this is where it gets into the different transports that we offer. So coming from a very satellite-centric world to the point where now we're offering terrestrial and Wi-Fi capability. So, whereas before you would have had to send that document over satellite, now we give you the ability to choose if you want to send it over terrestrial or Wi-Fi. And if you send it over either of those transports, you incur a different cost depending on what you want to do. So if you send it over terrestrial, there's a per-page fee, but if you can wait and send it over Wi-Fi, there's no charge to send that document. So we've been able to help our customers save some money there and also remove potential points of failure and manually managing those documents as they go through the process. So, again, we've got the capabilities, we've got the transports now in this new, more powerful platform, so we continue to create products and services that help our customers derive value from those. Another one that falls into that category is content delivery here. So we give our customers now the ability to send audio, video, and PDF files down to their drivers. So, maybe there's a training manual or an HR document, or maybe you just want to send a greeting for the holidays. You can do that via audio or video, and you can send that down from the back office, see if a driver received it, see if they actually consumed it, and then manage that content on the device similar to a PC. And you can do all that remotely from the host. So that's been a big request from some of especially our larger fleets, particularly in the owner-operator side, where they don't necessarily interact with their drivers as frequently as they'd like. It gives them a vehicle to now do that a little more effectively.
Web browser.
With the addition of Wi-Fi, we've also added web browsing on the device. This can be very basic. You can lock it down. You don't necessarily have to offer it to your drivers, but it does give our customers a way to give their drivers access to things like webmail or a company internet portal. And of course, on the MCP200, you can also stream video through the browser as well. So again, all these things are enabled by a more powerful processor and the ability to store more information on the device as well.
A meeting breaks out in the
messaging
places under an elm tree in a park.
So, what some of our customers are telling us they want to do here is, maybe they've got a training video that they want their drivers to be able to access and view when they're in Wi-Fi coverage. So, the way they would configure that Wi-Fi network is if it's one of their own Wi-Fi hotspots and the driver wants to use it, he can do that. We also give them the ability to just grab whatever Wi-Fi coverage is out there that's available. And then we also have a deal with a company that provides a Wi-Fi network at various fuel stops throughout the country. So they've got 700 stops. You can essentially subscribe to that network for a monthly fee and leverage those reliable hotspots in places where you know your driver's going to be. A couple other things. We've got driver training now on the device. So this is great from a liability standpoint. If you're a carrier, your driver's doing some dangerous behavior. Maybe you've gotten alerts that the driver's hard braking through our critical event reporting service. You want to make them take some training within a certain period of time to help mitigate that risk. We give you the ability to do that via our partnership with a company called ITI. So these guys provide training modules that are on the device. As soon as the driver takes one of these modules, that information is then stored on their server, sent to their server, and that's all tracked. So you've got a record that, yes, you knew your driver was doing something dangerous, you took action, all that information is stored. So in the event that anything in terms of litigation or anything like that comes about, you've got some track record of having taken steps to mitigate that. We also offer training on the actual device. So our training team has worked very hard to put together really impressive training modules, which may not seem like a big deal, but as a carrier, you constantly have drivers coming in and out, as Tom alluded to, with the driver turnover. So sometimes they need just training on a specific application, or maybe they need a refresher on one of these applications. So we create modules when we release new applications and services, so our customers can get a feel for what these things do on a very high level. Not necessarily a replacement for specific training, but something that we can certainly enable and help our customers when they need to do that type of training. And then, of course, we've got the games. Our customers love solitaire, at least the drivers do. So we continue, to provide those types of services and critical event reporting. But all in all, we've created this platform now where drivers who may have had to get out of the cab to go scan a document and pay a pretty decent fee to actually get that document to the back office. That's been automated. We've enabled a communications channel from the back office to the driver where they can utilize that any number of ways, from business to just driver satisfaction. And we've also enabled our customers to now throttle latency versus cost, as opposed to having a single configuration of just satellite or just terrestrial. Now they can use this multi-mode capability to route those documents and those files in a way that makes sense for their business based on their latency versus cost threshold. And that's it. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Thanks, Jason. So as we come back, one of the things I hope you saw was that there's really a lot of software applications that are running on that device. So beyond the wireless network, beyond the device itself, you have applications that are really fueling the expansion for us at QES, allowing us to go to new markets, provide new content and new solutions to our customers. One of them Jason brought up was navigation. And navigation in trucking is very different than what you use in your passenger cars. So trucking companies or trucks actually have restrictions on the roads they can go on. They have restrictions based on the cargo they're hauling. Also, things like bridge heights and stuff matter. And so the routing that we provide on board takes into consideration all those factors and allows the driver to operate safer. We have a lot of customers that will actually say they feel that over half their accidents happen when the driver is lost. And if you look at a lot of the studies coming out of navigation, you'll find that when you use navigation, you're more attentive to the road, you feel more relaxed, and you do have fewer accidents, fewer insurance claims, and things like that. So navigation is a great tool that we've added at QES. So recently, I've relocated from Minneapolis out here to San Diego, and as part of that process, brought the family out and we started looking at homes. And when we went in, it always went the same way. My wife would go in, and she'd find the kitchen, and she'd start looking at the appliances and did it have, what kind of countertop did it have, things like that. I'd come in, and I'd always go and look, and I'd try to see, okay, well, where's the family room? Where am I going to put the big screen? Where's the home theater system going? So we found a house. We moved in about a month ago, and that first weekend, that first Saturday, I went to Best Buy and got the biggest TV I could that would fit in the back of the SUV, picked up a new stereo, a Blu-ray, had them come and hook up satellite with HD, and the pausing the TV, all those different features. And I was in heaven. And I got it all hooked up and was going to watch a little college football. And I sat down on the couch and I looked at the coffee table and I had 7 different remotes. I liked it, right? Being in technology, I knew what each one did, picked it up. They all had a different purpose, and it was great. The only problem was when I went to work or would take a business trip, the family could never figure out how to turn the TV on. And I'd say, honey, it's really easy. You pick up this one, you turn on the TV, make sure that's on video 1. You take this one, you turn on the stereo, make sure that's on audio 1. And then this silver one, that's for the dish. You need to power that up, you need to hit guide, and you're good to go. So that didn't work very long. So I got in the car, I went back to Best Buy, and I picked up one of these universal remotes. So you take this, you hook this up to your laptop, you connect to the internet, you tell it what kind of TV, stereo, all those things. It programs, and when you want to watch TV, all you do is touch Watch TV. It turns everything on, and boom, you're watching TV. So the reason I'm bringing this up is if you look at today's truck cab, it's a lot like that. Truck cabs have a lot of technology. They have not only, like Jason showed you, the MCP 200 in the cab, but there's more and more safety systems going on trucks. You have systems that actually have cameras that will look on the stripes on the road and detect if you're swerving in and out of lanes. So a lot like those rattle strips here in California. And the driver's got another user interface he has to look at. There's anti-rollover systems. There's radar systems that'll look at in front of the truck, detect the closing rate, the truck, and other objects, and will actually alert the driver. So you have all these things going on, plus checking the mirrors, right? Checking your speed and all those other things. So the great thing that we do at QES is we're just like the one-touch remote for the driver in the cab. We take everything the driver needs, we put it in one place for him, and we do it safely. So one of the big things we've invested in is an in-motion user interface that's safe for drivers. If you look at the latest trends in distracted driving, it's becoming a big issue. And 30 states plus the District of Columbia have enacted texting bans while driving. And actually last year, if you look at the 2009 crash numbers, there were over 5,500 deaths and over 4,500 injuries just from distracted driving. So it's a serious thing, texting, cell phone use and things when you're operating a vehicle. So Ray LaHood, who's the director of Secretary of Transportation, said it's, let's see, his quote was, "We will not let up until distracted driving is a thing of the past." And if you listen to what the industry experts are saying, they're really saying that a key is to integrate the technology properly with both the driver and the driving tasks, and that's exactly what we've done at QES. So promoting safety, adding those software applications, but doing it away, like we've done with navigation, with the text-to-speech which you heard, is critical to the safe operation of the vehicle and a big competitive advantage for us at QES. Also, just like we do that for the driver, we bring everything together he needs in one place. Now, as of yesterday, we're doing the same thing for everyone back in the office. Yesterday, we launched Analytics Manager, which is a dashboard that takes all that information we're collecting on board from our Qualcomm systems, as well as some of those other safety systems I talked about, puts it all in one place for managers. They can go in and look at their scores on fuel, safety, the efficiency of their fleet. They can get dashboards with red, yellow, green on all the key factors affecting their fleet. The thing about information is really becoming a key thing in this industry, and people are finally recognizing it. One of our customers testing this product said it's not the hardware, it's not the network. We make our margins, and our business is based on the intelligence you provide us. So that's a big change for customers to realize that and depend on the information we provide so much. The way that Analytics Manager is structured, you can get a very high level, or you can drill into detail. And one of the great things is because we have such a large customer base and so many great customers, we actually collect that information, develop industry averages, and then we can compare drivers against averages, fleets against fleets, and that's going to be a great thing going forward to really raise the performance of a driver or a fleet itself. Last year at the ATA, which is the American Trucking Association, which is the biggest show in trucking, there was a quote made in one of the general sessions that the information is as valuable as the cargo. So to run an efficient trucking operation, to be a just-in-time operation, you need that information. It's as critical as everything back in the trailer. So the third section here is talking about how we're addressing with the technology some of the challenges that the industry is facing. Fuel is a big cost. You look at operating a fleet and you have the fuel, you have driver, you have the vehicle itself. All those things have to be managed well. In the case of fuel, it's tough to see, but there's a gray line back here on the screen. And you see it back in January of 2008 going up to 476 approximately, and then falling off a cliff, same time as the recession. So even though when we saw that chart before where it showed 2007, 2008, things were pretty good as far as having supply and demand, the tonnage to haul, the industry was facing a huge crisis with oil and the price of diesel fuel. And a lot of times carriers are not able to pass that back on to the shippers in time to recoup that cost. So it really eats into their business and their margins. We provide a lot of tools that allow customers to manage their miles per gallon. In this case, we're showing things like MPG, idle time, overspeed, things like that. Speed is an important factor because for every 5 miles an hour, a truck goes over 55, they lose half a mile per gallon. So it doesn't seem like a big number if you think about your car, but when you're looking at a big truck, in this case, we're anywhere from 5 to 7 miles per gallon, and you're traveling well over in excess of 100,000 miles a year, that adds up on your fuel bill pretty quick. So we provide the information fleets need in order to manage that cost. The other thing, I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Washington, and somebody made the comment that a diesel truck is actually more efficient than a Prius. And when you think about it, if you look at not the miles per gallon, but the ton miles per gallon, which takes into consideration the amount of work or weight that gallon of fuel is producing and hauling, the diesel truck is really efficient, even though it's getting 6-7 miles per gallon for hauling 80,000 or more pounds. The trucks really have become pretty efficient, and managing fuel is still a critical factor for most fleets. As is maintenance. So we provide services, critical event reporting, which allow fleets to get a better picture of what's happening on the road. Breakdowns, service failures mean less money, so they're very costly for fleets. We provide the tools that help manage vehicle maintenance. A cornerstone of Qualcomm is customer service, so helping our customers provide better service to their end customer, as well as providing great customer service to our customers internally. So on time, every time is the goal, and some of the tools we use, things like circle of service workflow, which basically automate the driver's work, taking all the factors, interfacing to the back office systems that are dispatching, as well as looking at status and different things on board, and that's all wrapped into a single plan for the driver that'll take him through his day. Safety. So safety is a big one. We really do help make the road safer for all of us. Safety is a big thing in the industry. Actually, this year, truck-related fatalities are the lowest they've ever been in more than 60 years. So we're at an all-time low now. In fact, if you look at the accidents where a truck is involved, less than half, it was the truck's fault. So usually a passenger vehicle will cause that. And then if you take that away and look at all highway-related fatalities, trucks are responsible for less than 5%. So safety is something the industry really takes pride in. I was at a customer a couple weeks ago, and their comment was, there are no secrets in safety. So the work they're doing with Qualcomm, they would be more than happy to share with their competitor in the name of promoting the industry. So overall, it's just something that the industry is very involved in and very active in, and really does help make the road safer. Another area that affects safety we've touched on a little bit, but is the hours of service. And that's basically recording. Here's a picture of a manual log, which that regulation has been around since the 1920s. And basically a driver has to record every minute and every day of their life, and they're doing one of four things. They're either driving, they're on duty, and not driving, they could be delivering, they're off duty, not working, or they're in the sleeper berth or the bunk in those big trucks you see. They have to record that, and there's separate restrictions on how much they can drive in the day, mostly up to 11 hours. There's other restrictions on how much drive and work they can do in a day. And there's also restrictions on how much time they can work in a week, and all these things play into each other, and it's a very complicated thing. Our software manages that and makes it easy for the drivers to record and keep in tune with those violations or those regulations, and they also automatically show the fleet if there's any violations. Now, electronic onboard recording technology is what has been proposed coming up here in the next couple of years of mandating that technology for the worst 10% as far as safety goes in the industry. A lot of people feel that that mandate will come out and be even stronger as the technology is adopted. So if you look at the market position QES has, being a leader in this area, we're in a great position to capture a lot of market share as mandates like this come out down the road, and more and more technology has to be adopted so things look good from a market standpoint. Okay, so how many people have seen the Progressive insurance commercials with Flo? Okay, great. Well, we have a little clip for you here. Try to.
This is why we do this! Freedom! The open road!
No doubt! And Progressive has great coverage and policies starting at just $95 a year!
I dig that!
Most bikers do! That's why Progressive is number one! Woo! Let's ring you up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do I have any bugs in my teeth?
Nope, you're good.
Number one in motorcycle insurance. Now that's Progressive.
Right. Okay. So the key thing coming out of there is, did you hear when they said number one in motorcycle insurance? The way Progressive got to be number one in motorcycle insurance is they collected data on more and more motorcycle drivers. They used that data, they used the models and everything that insurance companies have, and they made predictions about the likelihood of accidents and the cost of accidents and things like that. So when most insurance companies looked at the motorcycle market, they saw a high risk category. When Progressive looked at it, they actually segmented the market, and they found that there was a population of 40 to 50-year-olds that were stockbrokers, dentists, lawyers, doctors, who rode their Harleys mostly on weekends. So what they did is they offered that segment of the market a cheaper rate because they were the safer drivers, and they cleaned up on that segment and then rated other areas appropriate as well. So they were really one of the first insurance companies that took analytics, took the information, and actually they exposed it to customers as well, because remember, go to Progressive.com commercials, and you'd see right away if Progressive was a fit, or they'd tell you to Allstate, they'd tell you to go to State Farm if they weren't right. So they figured out how to detect the good drivers from the bad drivers. That's exactly what we're doing with Qualcomm technology now, with partnerships with some of the key companies in the industry. We'll take the information that we're collecting on board. We'll augment that with the safety systems I talked about earlier. We'll look at things like the HR system, credit scores, things like that. And then there's a predictive engine model where we can actually make predictions about what drivers are at risk. And 3 weeks ago, I visited one of our customers using the system just outside of Nashville in Cookeville, Tennessee. And the stories they were telling, they'd get a list of the top 20% of the drivers to call. And it would come up with whatever the engine predicted that it could be fatigue, that they thought there was a rest issue, looking at their driving patterns. It could be a change in speed or something, which was not a normal pattern for the driver. And it would actually make this guess at what was going on. The company called a few drivers, and they'd say, "Hey, we just want to call and see if everything's going okay. Is everything right at home?" And they had drivers that said the most amazing things. One driver said, "You know what? I just filed bankruptcy, and I broke my foot, but yet I'm still driving because I don't want to lose my job." So they took that driver, got him the care he needed, counseled him, and now they have a loyal driver for life. Other cases where they'd call drivers and it was a fatigue issue, speeding, something like that, and they had a sick parent at home. Or even one case where one of the drivers lost a child and was worried about taking off work time to get back in time for the funeral. And the company stepped in and made sure he got home okay. He was off the road, no longer a risk. And again, there's probably a driver for life. So if you look at where the industry and things are going, more and more we're talking about things like Analytics Manager. More and more we're talking about using the data that's collected to get smarter and smarter about what behaviors we think are going to happen. And it's really happening out there, and it's making it a much safer highway environment for all of us. So we talked about three things today. We talked about the demanding industry that's out there with lots of change coming, cost pressures, regulation, trouble with keeping the labor pool, the drivers, in check. We also talked about how the QES technology is evolving and going to meet those needs with the customers. And lastly, we talked about a few cases where we're actually applying the technology to make a difference for our customers. So, as you're traveling down the road, and if you look up on the back of the semi and you see one of the Qualcomm domes like I did almost 20 years ago, I hope you think not only of the reliable satellite communications that QES provides, but also think about some of the new things we're doing to make the road safer for all of us. Thank you. Do we have any questions? We have one here. The question was, are we leveraging QCT technology, the chipsets and other things, in some of the MCP products? The answer is, right now we are running a Windows XP platform, which is something that the market demanded, and currently today the Snapdragon processors don't support XP. Now we have been having joint meetings and looking at the roadmap for Snapdragon processors and talking, even just yesterday, had a meeting discussing how we may move to that environment. But for today, we're stuck with an Intel architecture based on the market requirements, but we are using other things like Gobi and the wireless communications and things to fuel the communications in the devices. One in the back there? Oh, the question was how is QES doing against the competitors? That's a good question, and I'd say excellent. Looking at what we see, especially after the MCP 200 has come out, we've seen just an amazing uptake on that product. We see a lot of customers upgrading from the Omnitrax technology they were running for years, moving the 200, and then we're also seeing a lot of competitive takeaways. Again, the market is getting competitive. You see a lot more investment coming in because the opportunity is big. But without a doubt, QES is at the forefront and the number one position in the market. Is there a question? So the question is around using the high-speed satellite and the connectivity on the device. So Jason, I don't know if you can answer that as far as the satellite.
Yeah, that's certainly something we could explore. I think really where our customers are going from a general just sort of day-to-day operational profile is they really want to leverage terrestrial and Wi-Fi just because of the cost and the speed of both of those transports. Going forward, I know especially with the 110, that doesn't currently support a satellite solution, so we're going to be looking at options around that. And we do have a certain segment of our customer base that always will need satellite because they're hauling sensitive loads and they need to be in constant communication, and in those cases, terrestrial and Wi-Fi just don't cut it. So, that's certainly something that we could explore going forward. We don't have anything like that in place now, obviously.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more question? Sorry. The question is, now that Enphase is spun out, are we pursuing any other businesses right now? Right now, the focus, Rich Apizio is back and running the division, and he's made a clear focus that our number one goal is transportation and logistics market, taking care of our existing customers, looking for new market segments to expand into, and also looking more at software as a service opportunities. So we're always looking for opportunities out there in the market, but today we're squarely focused on transportation and logistics. Okay, thank you.